So far, it has become clear that we, as a moral and human responsibility, must examine a message that we consider possible to have come from God, so that if we find it convincing to our conscience, we should believe in it and otherwise set it aside. When we decide to examine Islam, it initially appears that we are dealing with a distinct and well-known religion, the second largest in the world, with nearly 2 billion followers, and it has specific teachings that we should evaluate to see whether they are convincing or not. But when we look more carefully, we see that here too, like other schools of thought and religions, we are faced with hundreds and thousands of different interpretations, branches, sects, and viewpoints that are even contradictory, to the extent that we see some followers of this religion even declare one another disbelievers, takfir. In these circumstances, and with such fragmentation and dispersion, if we want to examine this religion, which Islam should we examine? Which interpretation of Islam should be the criterion for our evaluation? Well, here some people might pay attention to the majority and the view that most Muslims hold, and make the opinion of the majority of Muslim scholars the criterion for their evaluation. Some others might take the behavior of Muslims, historical reports, the results achieved with Islam, and what we today know as Islam, Muslim countries, or Islamic societies as their evaluation criterion. But we previously explained that we are faced with an undeniable reality. Religions, schools of thought, ideas, and texts gradually become distorted over time and drift away from their origin. Therefore, none of these can be the criterion of Islam and represent the Islam that we consider might be God's message. All of these might have changed, and there is even the possibility that most Muslim scholars believe in an interpretation other than what the original message of God is. So we must search for the essential foundation, the original text, and the message about whose Islamic authenticity there is no doubt, and make that the basis of our examination. When we examine the beliefs of Muslims, we see that despite all these fragmentations and differences, there is no doubt that a person named Muhammad in the 7th century AD claimed to be a prophet on behalf of God. There is no doubt that he declared, "I received God's words through revelation and transcendental messages, and I have conveyed God's message to you." And everyone unanimously agrees that a book called the Quran contains this message and words that this person claimed to have received from God and presented. Therefore, the most important, fundamental, and definitive thing that we can consider as the basis for evaluating Islam and expressing true Islam is the Quran. In other words, we can say Islam means the religion that the Quran presents. Of course, different schools and tendencies of Muslims have introduced other things besides the Quran, such as the Prophet's tradition, Sunnah, hadiths, or other elements as representing Islam, but there are differences regarding them and doubts about access to their original texts. But the Quran is a definitive and common source among all Muslims, so we must make it the basis of our examination,